Yes, welcome to the Biz Communication Show. I'm your host, Bill Lampton, the Biz Communication Guy, once again hosting a business communication expert. Today's guest on both YouTube and podcast is Katie Brinkley, coming to us from the Denver, Colorado area. Katie has been leveraging social media to grow audiences and income for over 18 years. Since the time of MySpace, and that's quite a while back, she's helped her clients build a strategy to attract the right followers and generate consistent inbound leads in as little as an hour a week. From building corporate level growth strategies for AT&T and DirecTV, to implementing done-for-you social media for solopreneurs and local businesses, Katie has been at the forefront of the changes in how buyers engage on social media, utilizing her platform-agnostic strategies. Hey, don't you love that phrase? Her platform-agnostic strategies, Katie's clients have been able to see bottom-line results at every stage of the sales process. Katie's history of radio journalism, mixed with her social aptitude, allows her to bring a unique insight and leverage her client stories to the forefront of their social strategies. So join me, please, in welcoming Katie. Hi, Katie. How you doing today?
I am doing great. How are you doing today? And I always love having you do an intro. I'm like, who is it going to be? He's talking about me. I sound like such a big deal when hearing you read off my intro there, Bill. So thank you for the nice introduction.
You wanted to meet that person. Is that it?
I would. Yeah.
Katie, I mentioned in that intro that your start with social media goes all the way back to MySpace. I'm one of the people who remembers attempting MySpace, and I built it all the way up to 2 connections. Can you believe that? And so it's an interesting point, I think, for us to begin with, that MySpace, all of a sudden, the first one in the door just doesn't make it. And people were ready for it, obviously, by what happened since then. So give us a contrast, please. What was it that MySpace did not do that the others did later so that they flourished while MySpace flopped? What's your analysis of that?
Ooh, that's a great question. And when I say that I've been doing this since MySpace, I think a lot of times people think that I had a MySpace page, but no, I was actually helping bands with their MySpace pages. If you remember, this was before streaming music really was a thing. Napster was out there, and Napster and Metallica were button heads, and then this MySpace thing comes out, and you can upload some of your favorite songs to be your own little mini website. And that's where I was really finding a lot of success with making new connections, was by helping bands with their MySpace pages and using those MySpace pages to get their songs on the radio. At the time, social media, being a social media anything, didn't exist. I was in school to be a radio journalist, and I was just doing this on the side because 1, I loved music. 2, I worked at the college radio station. And 3, I wanted some free concert tickets. So I found the way to try and kind of make all of those things come together. And it was through MySpace. And I don't think that any of us saw the power that MySpace had. It gave us all a way to build relationships online with strangers on the internet, and keep relationships with friends from the past, family members that never really, we might not have ever really talked to except for at holidays. So MySpace was really that game changer. Tom was everybody's first social media friend. But they kind of happened what happened to Blockbuster. They didn't try and change fast enough for the times.
Oh, yes, I remember, Katie. on Friday nights going to Blockbuster. You'd see your friends and neighbors there. And I can still remember very clearly when Blockbuster started putting on their shelves these funny little things called CDs. And I said, gosh, what are those doing here?
Yeah.
And so that's a classic, rather current example of adapt or die.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's so true. And I mean, I remember talking with one of my friends and she had signed up for this new thing called Netflix and she got her DVDs in the mail. And I was like, well, why would you want to do that when you could just walk to Blockbuster and get the movie right away? And she was like, well, because you get it within the next day, you can keep it as long as you want, and I was like, I guess that kind of makes sense. But I mean, I'll just stick with Blockbuster. I don't think any of us saw the what was going to evolve with Netflix and turning into a streaming service like the very first. But that's what happened with MySpace. Facebook at the time was just for colleges and universities, and then they went public. And at the time, again, I was like, this doesn't really seem to make sense for me. I like all the bells and whistles I have from MySpace. But then Facebook started adapting those. They started giving you more tools, stuff that you didn't even really know that you wanted or needed. And more people were joining Facebook every day, whereas MySpace started to just be used for artists, bands, and musicians. So I think that that's where a lot of the changes happened, where MySpace was still focused on the musicians first, and then building out that sort of following, as opposed to building it as, creating connections between friends and family members, and less of a personal website and more of a spot to connect with people. So I think that with Facebook, we never really, it was just the beginning of the end for MySpace, and then Twitter came, and then Instagram came, and all these different social media platforms come out, each of them having their own specific niche and type of way to show up and post on it. And MySpace, I mean, it is still around, believe it or not, it is still around. I sure wish now that I hadn't deleted my MySpace page of however many years ago I did, because it'd be great to go back and see what it looked like and kind of what I was into at the time. But if you want to still have a MySpace, you can.
Well, that's news to me, and it's news to our guest, I suppose, that MySpace is still around. Thank you for that explanation. It sort of brings to mind the fact that almost anything that becomes successful, it might not likely be the first person or the first venture there. I mean, certainly the Wright brothers weren't the first ones, I imagine, who were trying to fly, and others might have tried the light bulb before Edison. But you got to have some forerunners of almost anything that's important, significant, and world changing. Katie, I certainly follow you on all the social media, and it's wonderful to see what a resource you are for so many hundreds of people through your speaking, your coaching, your online activity. So we need a couple of pieces of advice. One is, and I certainly am interested in this one. We hear a lot of variations on how often we should post. For example, if I'm on LinkedIn, which I am every day, or if I'm on Facebook, I see some people who are there repeatedly, especially on LinkedIn. I might see somebody who has a post on there 6 or 7 or 8 times a day. And yet I hear some social media strategists say the more you post, the more your influence and impact will diminish, because people say, oh, there they are again. So how do we find what would be the right medium, maybe?
That's a great question. And I think that there are a lot of people who have this similar question, because there's a lot of differing opinions. And I think that depending on what your business is, depends on how often you should post. Now, if you're a content creator or an influencer, you should be posting a lot, because you're posting about different sort of products to buy, and you have your own income coming in from people watching your videos. However, for most of us, we're business owners, and I don't know about you, but I don't have, the capacity to create, you know, 7 short form videos to push out every single day and to be posting, blogs and be writing, carousel posts and doing a podcast of my own. I don't have time for all that.
I know. I think it would be a it would be an endless week
It's a
of
it's a full-time
18,
job.
18 to 20-hour days to do that.
Yeah. And I mean, so that's where I fully believe in posting quality over quantity. So every time you show up, even if you only have the time to post once that week, but it's a really good post. It's giving a lot of value. It's giving a great tip. It's updating people with what you've been working on or what you're have coming up. If you only have that one post to push out and make sure it's valuable, one post is better than 100 fluff. And I think that that is one of the hard parts, is to make sure that when you do show up, every time you post, it's something that people want to read, they want to share, they want to save it for later, that they're getting value from it. So unless you have a team of 20 people that can repurpose, one blog post for you 20 different ways and then publish it out for you, use the quality over quantity approach. And I think you can be very successful on social media if you post only 3 to 4 times a week.
3 to 4 times a week, not a day, but a week.
A week, yes.
Well, I think that there's an old saying, what is it? Familiarity breeds contempt. In other words, I often get the impression with someone who is posting practically every hour of every day, as I said a couple of minutes ago, I get the feeling there they go again. And
Mhm.
it's not special. It's as though, in a sense, I guess this could be a comparison. We all have friends we would love to get a phone call from, but do we want a phone call from them every hour? No,
No.
we want it when there's something really special.
Well, there's something to be said about staying top of mind. But again, if you're seeing posts all the time in the feed from people, the algorithm is going to be like, oh, every single time that Katie posts, Bill likes it. So we're going to keep showing him all of her posts, as opposed to like, okay, well, every time Katie posts, all these people like it. And then now they're seeing it in their feed. And then, especially on LinkedIn, it's it's like Facebook 2014. If you like a post, it'll push it out into your friends and followers algorithm too. So I think that use the quality over quantity approach and make sure that all of your posts, when they come out, people are excited to see what you have to say, as opposed to just showing up just to show up.
Very, very good advice. And let's while we're on that topic, I think relevant to this, I've heard advice that instead of trying to make an impact through your own posts, get very active in commenting on other people's posts and commenting with real substance, not just hi, how are you doing, or good to be in touch again, or how's your dog doing? I mean,
Yes.
it I would assume that maybe you advise clients to get very involved that way, connected.
Yeah. And I think that too, with exactly like what you said there, that's where the time comes in, where for you to only post maybe 3 times a week, because you're still engaging on social media. Let's remember, it's called social media. Um, and a lot of us have turned it into consuming media, if that makes sense. So we're showing up on social media and all we're doing is consuming. We're not even liking, we're not commenting, we're not doing anything except for watching 15-second reels and scrolling through the feed. But if you take the time and let's say all that week, you don't have time to create any posts, but at night in bed before, going to bed or whatever, you have 15 minutes to scroll through LinkedIn and engage. That's just as valuable, because you can show up on other people's posts, leaving them a comment exactly like what you said, Bill, that's well thought out and has some substance to it. Because if you start a conversation from somebody's post, other people are going to see that. And then more people are going to want to start commenting on it. Not only does it help the creator, but it helps you too, because then they're going to be like, well, who's this Katie Brinkley person? I want to see what she does, because that was a really good tip that she shared about entrepreneurship. And so now they head over to my account and they're like, well, look at all the great stuff she gives. Look at this. She has a podcast and blogs. I want to follow her. I want to connect with her. And that didn't come from me creating, a 15-second dancing and pointing video. That came from me laying in bed at night, scrolling through the feed and engaging, being social on these platforms and giving a valid comment and a valuable comment.
And really, people are, and maybe especially on LinkedIn, they can be impressed by our credentials. That's important, but they really want to know, what would it be like to engage with this person? And that's where the commenting and the interacting comes
Yeah.
in. I just thought of a phrase, Katie, that might be useful here, and that is, on the social media, show up, but don't show out.
I like that. Yeah. I like that a lot.
If you're there too often, you're showing out, but
Yeah.
just show up, engage, and let it be about them and not about you. That, I imagine, is what you emphasize with your many clients.
Yeah, it really is. And it does always come back to what's in it for them. Why do they want to follow your page? Why do they want to engage with anything that you're putting out? What's in it for them? And if you show up and give them value day in and day out, you're commenting back with them, you're engaging back with them, you're going to build a community of your biggest fans.
Katie, you remind me, you started out in radio, and for quite a few decades, I've been on radio here and there and enjoyed doing it. It reminds me of a statement I heard when I first joined National Speakers Association, and that is, what is everybody's favorite station? And people start calling out call letters, and you look at them finally and you say, no, that's not it. Everybody's favorite station is WIFM. And they say, we've never heard of that. What's that? What's in it for me?
I like that. I like that a lot.
And that's what people, not in a selfish way, but if they're going to spend time on the internet, if they're going to have a presence there, they don't do it unless there's some kind of return. We've got one more question for Katie, the expert, and your expertise is both deep and wide in your arena. So I read where you said that podcasting had changed both your career and your life. This show appears on YouTube. It appears as a podcast as well. I know that you advise people about podcasting. You help them get started. You critique how they're doing it. We've got time for 2 or 3 of the best tips you can give us about podcasting.
Oh man, I could talk about podcasting for maybe 2 or 3 of your episodes here, Bill.
But why don't we just schedule that down the road?
Yeah.
I want you to be a return guest, but whatever you can give us in capsule form right now.
Of course. And like you said, I came from radio. I always wanted to be on the radio. I'm an only child. When I was little growing up, I had my very first microphone and I would sit and do radio shows in my room alone. I just love radio. And there's something powerful about voice, hearing someone speak. Like I said, when you're doing my intro, I'm like, man, I just want him to like read anything to me. This is incredible. Because you have a powerful voice. You can hear someone's authenticity. You can hear when someone's passionate about something. You can hear when someone's reading something off of Google. And you can quickly identify who it is that you know, like, and trust just by hearing someone speak. So podcasting, I think, is an incredible way to build out your know, like, and trust factor. So not everybody wants to have a podcast. I have 3. I like to talk a lot. I have a lot of different passions. podcasting for me is a way that I can still build out relationships for my business, and to get to talk to people that I would have never had the opportunity to speak with. So one of my podcasts is Rocky Mountain Marketing, and I have the opportunity to interview people that I've only had previously only seen speak on stage. And I have the opportunity to talk with them one-on-one. So if there's people that you want to speak with, people that you look up to, podcasting is a great way to get that introduction.
That's why I'm hosting you today.
Another great reason to have a podcast is for the business side of things. So every once a month, I interview a Denver-based business owner to hear their entrepreneur story, hear about why they decided to become an entrepreneur. And honestly, it's a great way for us to get to know each other. Am I a good person for them to refer out? Since I do social media, are they a good person for me to refer out if I need to know somebody in screen printing? And it's a great way to have that one-on-one conversation to get to know each other better. So podcasting opens a lot of doors, either with people that you'd never have the opportunity to speak with other than like at an event, or people that maybe you just never would have come across other than a LinkedIn post, and you decide, hey, you know what, this person might be a really good person to have in my network for referrals or to do business with someday. I'm going to do one more tip. I know that already was two, Bill, but if you don't want to have a podcast, if you want to, just start with guesting, it is another great way to grow your network. Starting with a one pager, there's different podcast connection tools out there so that you can find guests, find guesting opportunities. There's a lot of podcasts out there that are looking to share your story. Doesn't matter if it's for business, it could be for football, it could be for cryptocurrency, it could be for mindset or anything. There's a lot of podcasts out there, and a lot of them are looking for guests. So I think that if you want to start somewhere, start with a podcast guest kind of circuit and see what kind of connections happen from it, because you never know what that conversation is going to turn into and the connection that's going to be made.
Getting back to some of the changes that you and I have witnessed in technology and talking about podcasting, and we'd mentioned CDs before, it might have been quite a shock to people when the newer cars don't have CD players, but they have a place you can plug in and listen to a podcast.
Yep.
That's indicative right there, isn't it?
Exactly. There's a lot. We're on a podcast right now and on YouTube, but I mean, that's the thing. With podcasts, there's something for everybody, and there's so many opportunities to make new connections and get your story out there. So I feel like a lot of times people think, oh, well, I don't really know if I'd have anything to say, but if you find a schedule that you can stick to and start doing outreach and, figure out with the type of show that you want to have, it doesn't need to be an hour and a half long, monologue of you speaking on something every single day. It can be once a week. It can be once a month, depending on again, quality over quantity, and figure out what works best for you. But I think podcasting is an absolutely incredible tool to grow your network, grow your business, and grow your relationships.
And such as we're doing today, I think you just touched on it. It becomes very interesting when you have a guest, when you have a conversation partner.
Yes, 100% agree.
Katie, you're a tremendous conversation partner. No surprise to me. I've followed you. I've seen your presence across the world. Really, you have a global impact, and I'm so pleased to host you today. I know there are many of our viewers and listeners who want to follow up with Katie Brinkley. So please give us your contact information.
Well, I'm on social media. So connect with me on LinkedIn or on Instagram. On LinkedIn, I'm at Katie Brinkley. And then on Instagram, I am Katie Brinkley. And then, connect with me online. Go to katiebrinkley.com.
And when people find you there, they're going to find you in a cowboy hat or a cap. I think that's a part of your branding. You're not you're not a stuffy consultant. You're a fun-loving gal.
I am a jeans and t-shirt kind of gal. I definitely am a jeans and t-shirt with a baseball cap kind of gal. For those watching on YouTube, they can see my baseball jersey I got in the background here. And always, I'm comfort based always.
Well, the whole world has changed its dress patterns. I've got probably about 5 suits in my closet that wonder what happened to me. You know? Katie, since you've given your contact information, I'm delighted to give mine. Bill Lampton, the biz communication guy. And so logically, my website is bizcommunicationguy.com. I invite you to go there. Check my services for corporations and leaders. Give me a call and let's talk about your communication challenges and problems and how I can assist you with them. So happy to have had you with us today on YouTube and on the podcast. And Katie, any closing 20 to 30-second tip for us about social media?
I definitely feel quality over quantity, and you don't need to be everywhere. If you only have time for one social media platform, do that one social media platform to the best of your ability. Check all the boxes. If it's LinkedIn, show up on LinkedIn, be publishing articles, share a post or two, engage on it, and you will see great results. And then you can also add in more social platforms as time allows and you get more comfortable, but start small and then expand from there.
Thank you, Katie. Thank you to those of you who've been with us today. Be with us again next week for another highly informative conversation. I'm Bill Lampton. This is the Biz Communication Show. Be with you next week. Thank you.